they see us, they will run for their lives. To the end, they will pay for their lives. So long did we wait. Now we are home.
And welcome everybody. Yes, they're gonna run for their lives because Jim Price is here in the Educational Analytical Development Radio Show. And we are bringing you Jim Price. Go for it, Jim.
Hello to the listening audience and viewers. It's Jim Price, children's book author and creator of Adventures of Hero from the Hood, social skill building series. So we're here to talk about some educational things. I know in past shows we've definitely touched upon a lot of educational things, and it was interesting because I was looking at some things going on within the educational community these days, and I came upon this nice article. That's a recent article that was by May 27th, 2022, and it's by this lady named Kate Barrington. So she had in this updated version of the U.S. education system and the things that we see today in terms of the lack of effectiveness. She covered quite a few things that are more prevalent for today's times, especially when you talk about having gone through the process of virtual learning that just occurred recently before the shutdown. So there was all that aspect of things of virtual learning which took place. So that changed the dynamic of a lot of things because a lot of students were having to be attached to devices or use technology just to be able to get whatever academic needs they need to have met. So in this updated thing, she kind of elaborates on those kind of things. So we're going to go through some of these things, and then I feel a lot of the things from what I saw there is definitely had a lot of validity in terms of the way that the shape of the educational system today in America is currently right now, and it's just something to see. So one of the first things she did talk about was about how there's the deficits in government funding for schools, and I think that's always important. She did mention that one of the biggest issues facing America as far as American public education is that more than 90%, this is a ratio quote, 90% of K through 12 schools funding come from state and local governments, largely generated by sales and income taxes. Generated by sales and income taxes, research to show that, however, the funding has not increased with need. So I definitely see that being something that's very true, as you see, especially in inner city districts, where you see the need has increased, but the funding has stayed the same. There has been no real increase in funding. So you see a lot of, and especially in inner city districts across the country, you'll see the old books, the old computers, the old this, the old that, like teachers having to go in pocket to provide the simple things for their students. Now, would that increase, or would that, if they increase the funding, I'm sure that would help. But since there's been a stagnation in that area of not increasing funding, we see that it's become stagnant in that sense. It's become where we're just in the same place. We haven't made any growth or any development because we're, staying stagnant in terms of funding. So, I mean, that's something that is definitely needed. She said states are still issuing funding that is lower than it was before the Great Recession. Okay, lower funding means fewer teachers, fewer programs, and diminishing resources, which I find to be extremely true because I'm being a school counselor myself and being in the public school systems and have worked in the private school system as well. I've seen over this time like definitely a stagnation where there is no real there hasn't been increase in funding. Well, maybe for the public, private sectors, because they could do their own thing. They're taking in a lot of kids from these public school systems and making it so that they are caught in that stream, that middle ground. And also with charter schools too, who also take from the public schools as well in terms of funding and stuff, and having those kids have the money allocated toward those kids in those systems, and when they go into those districts, in those schools, charter schools, in terms of charter schools. So we do see that as very prevalent, and I think that's something that really needs to be addressed in some way, to be able to have these students understand, or have not just have the students understand, but have a greater balance of having equal funding for students, especially when you talk about inner city kids and what they go through and what their experiences are. And it's just all over the place. It's prevalent, and I think it's something that definitely needs to be addressed in many ways in a lot of districts across the country. That's top of the line. If you don't have the money, you can't do the things that probably are, extra need. And I always emphasize the fact that, especially when you have today's climate with kids and students, you see also there's so many aspects of just the mental health part of it as well, that, where funding is needed to have a lot of these students get their needs met that have mental health issues, and they're not getting their needs met because there's not enough funding and there's not enough clinicians, because a lot of the places who do render services to those inner city kids, they are there's just not enough therapists to actually do the work that's needed to be done to help these students because of the underfunding, and then of course the wait list for a lot of the services for these things to be even rendered. So you have to see the services they need and get on wait lists that last maybe 3 to 9 months. When actually those kids are like really in need of immediate help, not this waiting and things of that nature. So I did agree with her outlook about how government funding for schoolings does have an impact on a lot of these things. Another thing that is definitely a big thing, and this was her number 2 thing, is the decline in school safety. Now, we've just went through the whole the school shootings, and it's been just terrible in terms of like how all this stuff has been happening and over again. And that was one of her things, to talk about decline in school safety. And she was mentioning how there has been a string of high-profile mass shootings in American schools, resulting in only a dozen of deaths, but many debate about school safety. Right? In one poll, it was noted as over 50% of teenagers said they were worried about the possibility of gun violence in school. Teachers across the country are faced with the problem of figuring out how to prevent attacks and protect lives and students and personnel, right? And also, some suggest special training for teachers and concealed weapons that might make schools safer, while critics argue that more guns in school can lead to more accidents and injuries. My personal opinion, I don't think teachers need to have guns. That is just my opinion. I think in a sense that creates another whole aura of issues, with the possibility of having accidents here and there. And you already have to worry about trying to maintain the safety of the school from having people from the outside get into the schools and rack all this violence and mayhem and everything like that. So that's already a problem as it is, just trying to put the schools in a position where the school building's actually safe and not vulnerable to attacks that have been happening for quite a while. And I think a lot of that is privy to people needing to understand that we're talking about kids, and when we talk about kids being impacted by violence when school is supposed to be their safe place, then there's a major problem there. there's a major problem. And schools are supposed to be, and majority of the kids, school is supposed to be the safe place. And for most of them, that is their safe place. Most of the time, that's where they get their meals from. Their only meals of the day come from school. They might not have, at home might be poverty going on and not much to eat at home. So the school becomes more than just a safe spot. It becomes a place where a lot of their needs are met while they're at school. So that's something that, is definitely out of control. And I think with the way things have gone so far, I know they've done some things in terms of passing a law that makes it so assault rifles can't be bought under 21. But then the recent shooting, there's been, but I think even in that sense, 21. Why don't we just get rid of assault rifles altogether? I don't understand what need there would be to have a civilian have a assault rifle that can cause so much carnage in a short amount of time, like easily available. But it's all about big money, and money is the root of things. So that won't change because there's so much money to be made behind the selling of these weapons of mass destruction, such as assault rifles and things of that nature. That can cause such carnage in a short amount of time. So I totally agreed with her intake about the decline in school safety. It just seems to happen over and over again where just kids, they're going to be scared to go to school. And this is a different time because they just came off of dealing with being virtual for such a long time. And then they get back into school and they're supposed to be learning almost again, all over again to how to be social, utilize socialization skills, and get back in the flow of having social interaction. And then you throw into the mix the violence and the tragedies that's been going on in terms of school shootings and things like that. And, the feeling from a standpoint of an educator who is in the midst of that, it can be definitely nerve wracking to think, like you're at school and you're thinking, okay, you're supposed to be a safe space for not just the kids, but the employees as well. And then to have the, things like that happening where people are walking in buildings and doing terrible things and stuff like that, not having any regard for human life. And I think that's the society has definitely turned in the worst way in terms of that. Like just it's almost like we become desensitized and dehumanized in terms of thinking violence is okay and continuing to accept it and not making changes that are needed to try to decrease, events such as school shootings and other shootings as well. So I totally agree with her take on that. Another thing that she mentioned was also about the challenges with technology in education, which I think now kids are more hooked than ever because, they're at school, they're using technology, they go home, they use technology. So it's almost like they're just totally connected to technology in such a way where it's just, it's a lot. It's probably more than it should be in terms of the use of technology and also how they are utilizing technology. In terms of you got a lot of kids who are utilizing technology in terms of playing video games or using iPads to play games and all that stuff. And then, you have the other side of it where now technology in the classroom has increased as well. Teachers using smart boards and things like that to help bring technology into the classroom to make it more interesting and more appealing to the kids and the students, because now their worlds are so much more attached to technology. They do the tick clock videos, they got the Snapchat thing, they got I don't know all the things that they're called, but a lot of those things they're so connected to these kids' lives now that it's almost like they are, like if the internet went down tomorrow and there was like a major power outage or something like that, a lot of these kids, they would probably lose their mind because they are so connected to technology. They're using it in school, they're using it at home. There's got to be a way to bridge all that where, if we're going to utilize technology, especially in education, there needs to be a way to utilize it in a way that's helpful, but also, having parents understand that they need to be accountable for what their kids are doing at home on their technology devices as well. in terms of what they're watching, what they're doing, things that they're, associating themselves with, connecting with, because a lot of times, a lot of the kids and a lot of students are online, and the parents don't know what they're connecting with, and there's online predators and all this stuff that are rampant around here, and so it becomes a major stir-up and major problem in terms of how technology has been a good thing in some aspects, but definitely has been detrimental in other aspects in terms of how our kids are developing, how they are, their minds are transpiring things and processing information as well. So, she talked about the couple of things in her aspect of terms of challenges with technology education. She has some arguments about how the large role of technology should play in education. She said supporters suggest that technology creates the potential for more active student engagement and provides instant access to up-to-date resources, while critics say it could be a distraction. While technology in the classroom certainly has its benefits, she mentions, certain aspects of the technology are challenging. For example, smartphones and easy access to technology have made it easier for students to cheat and can negatively impact learning. So, that is what it is. Kids got their smartphones in their pockets. They're taking their math tests. They raised their hand. The teacher said, I can't give you the answer. So they, sneakily put their smartphone under their desk, pull it out, calculate the answer on their smartphone because the smartphone has a calculator on it. Get the answer, put it down, and get credit for it. And then are laughing, he, ha, 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 because they feel they've gotten away with something. But in effect, when you're cheating like that, you're only cheating yourself. So a lot of students don't understand that because they're so young, and they don't understand that those kind of things are actually detrimental to their learning. And also, I think, especially in our area in Massachusetts, there's been a change now where we're trying to address that issue of cell phones being such a distraction by having what's called like technology pouches. So the kids would put their cell phones into a pouch, which has their name on everything, and then they have to submit that pouch at the beginning of the day, and then they don't get the pouch till the end of the day. So then that eliminates all the issues of being distracted, taking out the phones in classrooms, in the hallway, being distracted, going to lunch, making TikTok videos in the hallway and stuff instead of going to class and things of that nature. So it helps just alleviate a lot of that when you're able to have that technology at least under control, have them be able to focus on what they're supposed to be focused on when they're in school, which is learning. They're supposed to be focused on learning, not texting their friend and finding out, the students, they use the technology so heavy, I could use a perfect example. One of my students had, toward the end of the year, asked if it was all right for them to order food on Grubhub or something like that. Like, hey, can I order food on Grubhub and have them deliver it here? That's a small example of where the kids' minds are now these days. Grubhub at school while they're in school and pay for the food to have it delivered to the school. Now, they do provide school lunches, of course. Maybe the kid doesn't like the lunch. I have no idea. But I'm giving you, that's an example where kids are going in terms of using technology. And some of the kids, you get a flood of orders coming in and students are trying to figure out who's what is who's. It causes problems. So, I could definitely agree that technology can be a benefit, but it definitely can be harmful in terms of learning. I think the example that they're trying to use the pouches as a tool to try to see if it would work in terms of, but I know some of the students already heard it's coming up down the pipe and they're like, no, I'm not giving up my phone. Well, if the school district makes that a mandate where you have to put your phone in a pouch and it's like a mandated thing, they're not going to have much of a choice. You're either going to do that or you're just going to, have something else happen. So I think it's a positive thing that they're moving that direction to try to have students be accountable and put those phones away as soon as they enter the building, put them in their little pouches and then get them at the end of the day. have them do that, and then that helps them focus on learning. They won't be so distracted. So I totally agree with her aspect of that. Another hot topic that was mentioned was about school choice. Charter schools and school vouchers allow parents to choose options other than the traditional public schools for their kids today. Charter schools are funded by a combination of private and public funds and operate outside the public school system. School vouchers allow parents to use public funds to send their kids to school of choice, including private schools. Critics of these schools suggest that charter schools and voucher programs siphon funds away from public schools that are already struggling financially. I mean, what if you're not even going to increase funding for the schools? You're probably going to have, and you're sending kids out, and they're making have the option for school choice, and they think this other school is better over here for them through in that district. It could be a charter school or private school, and they said, like, you're gonna have money siphoned anyway. So I mean, what are you gonna do? Like, you're not increasing funding for the school, and then you want to complain about money being siphoned away from charter schools and private schools. Those same students, you're sending them to those schools because obviously in the public schools, you can't handle them or some of them are gifted kids and they just feel, their parents feel like they need to be in more environment that meets their special needs of however they're gifted. But also you have all the behavioral kids too, and social emotional kids who are being put in these private schools and other charter schools and things of that nature, who have social emotional needs that the public schools can't meet, and they openly say they can't meet. They have meetings on top of meetings to say, hey, we can't meet your students' needs. Now we have to send them here. So you know from the beginning when you decide to send them there that it's going to be money involved, and they're probably going to end up paying more out for that student to be placed in that school choice setting than they would if they would stay within their school district zone or whatever it might be. So, I mean, I see that all the time where school zones, it's almost like now things have changed. Back in the day, when I was in school, you had your zone, and whatever zone you were in, that dictated what school you were going to go to. It wasn't about school choice and all this stuff that they have today. I think they've let a lot more opportunity come in terms of having school choice, because I think it's good in some aspects that, you know, parents are able to choose, hey, I want my kid to go here, I want my kid to go there. I think the education here will be, or if they're special needs or something like that nature, oh, they can go here and get their needs met better here versus if they're in the public school system over here, you know. But I mean, school choice is a big thing now. And I mean, the public schools is always talking about how, you know, they're already struggling financially. I mean, maybe we need to have the public schools try to do something to make sure that those students can have their needs met within the public school system versus sending them somewhere else and having them do other things. So you do see a lot of that being part of the process too. And I think that is something that is big. School choice is big. It definitely, in Massachusetts, in the district and the surrounding districts, school choice is a big thing, and a lot of parents do choose to go that avenue because, you know, if they feel like their child is not being successful in one school setting, now they're like, okay, well, school choice, I'll send them to this school to see if they'll, you know, maybe can be successful in this school setting. And I will say, in some instances, sometimes it's not the school, sometimes it is, you know, whatever with the students going on too. It's not always just the school's problem when kids are feeling like their needs are not being met in that school setting. You know, sometimes, you know, they go to another school and they're having the same problems. Not like they've changed schools, but they're still having the same exact problems, which points to another issue, you know. But that's another thing that has come up quite frequently. And this is the other thing, and of course I know about this, and I think this is something that is very prevalent, but they were talking about the problems with Common Core curriculum. And that is something that is definitely prevalent in terms of, you know, how things are taught, curriculum, how things are managed in terms of what the lesson plans will be for students in whatever district they're in, Of course, it can vary from state to state and across the country, in terms of what curriculum they decide or what direction they decide to go in. But in terms of this article, they made the idea that the Common Core state standards were developed to specifically exactly what students should know before graduating high school. It developed in 2009 to promote educational equality across the country, holding all students at the same standardized testing requirements. Some see the problem as a federal intrusion upon the state control of education, and others say it doesn't allow for teacher innovation and flexibility with the learning process. Most states adopt the standard when they are introduced, but more doesn't have since repealed or revised them. So we see from that aspect, we're talking about Common Core. I know in our state, the state of Massachusetts, I know it's different from across different states across the country, but in our state, standardized testing is the king. It's king. Standardized testing is king. I mean, they cut funding to art, gym, all these other creativity and creative learning aspects of character for the kids. They'll cut a lot of the funding for that so we can focus on standardized testing, which is, like I said, it's like king. Standardized testing is king. The kids are being taught to basically, they get the core classes, and basically anything is being taught is to prepare them for the test. They're preparing for the test. Everything is focused on preparing for the test. I mean, and I said that's one of the things that is so, I've never agreed with. I never agreed with standardized testing. For us, is MCAS testing, and I mean, and I always explain it like this in the best way possible. And I just don't understand the merit behind it. But, you could have a student who's a very good student and maybe even be a straight A student, and they are needing to, they're getting their grades met, they're doing what they need to in the classroom. And then when it comes down to having to do the standardized test, all of a sudden, they don't pass a test, they don't get a high school diploma. They get like a participation something, like a participation paper versus having a diploma. Then, of course, after that, those kids who might have had straight A's and didn't pass their test, now they end up having to go to try to get their GED somewhere else because they didn't pass the test, even though their grades might have been good. And that's why one of the things I do not care about standardized testing, because I think in a sense when you're so focused on a test, and you probably could, bring the students anxiety because, everybody's like test, practice for the test. I mean, you got to pass the test, test. I mean, it's just thrown in their ear constantly. And I think a lot of times that could bring a lot of kids anxiety. You know what I mean? When you're talking about testing all the time and your focus is on testing, and then you're told you need to pass the test. Like if you're going to graduate, at least in Massachusetts, you need to pass your MCAS testing. You need to pass that or you don't get your high school diploma. Now, back in the day when I was growing up, long while back, when I was growing up, all I had to do was just pass my classes and then I would graduate with my diploma. There was no MCAS testing during that time. You just took your classes, passed your classes. As long as you passed your classes and you did the things you need to do and met your requirements for graduation, then you got your diploma. But now, the requirement for graduation is passing a test. So you're taking all these core classes. You have to pass all these core classes. But at the back end of all that, you have to take a standardized test to say, hey, I know I did my requirements, but now this test will say and signify if I get my diploma or not. And maybe some kids have anxiety about testing. I know a lot of kids that have anxiety around testing, so that's not an easy process for them to have pressure on them to be like, if I don't pass this test, I'm not going to get my diploma. I'm not going to get a diploma. So, I mean, then you have to go through the rigors of trying to find out about going the route of getting a GED, and I mean, you could do that, but why would you want to do that and have to do that if you've gone through the year, you pass most of your classes with A's or B's, and then you turn around and you have to take a test to determine if you're even going to get a diploma or you're just going to get a participation paper, a paper of participation, you know? So, I mean, that's one of the things I see as a problem with building the curriculum. Another aspect of it is, of course, and this is a big one, and I know a lot of districts now, it's beginning to, you're starting to see where, at least in Massachusetts, where school districts are actually trying to give incentives towards people to join or to stay within the public school system that they're working in and whatever. You know, like they're giving them incentive bonuses and things like that to stay with those districts, or incentive bonuses to bring more employees into the fold of teaching and whatever else is around, you know, in terms of educational system in the U.S. So, I mean, that's the other part of it. And when you talk about that, is the decreased teacher salaries. Decreasing teacher salaries. Now, this is what was said and mentioned about, you know, decreasing teacher salaries. Teacher salaries are by no means impressive, and most states have decreased steadily over the past few years. Now, remember that all this article is from 2022, May of 2022, right? I just want you guys to remember that this is from May of 2022. In fact, research shows that the average salary for public elementary and secondary school teachers dropped by nearly 5% between 2009 and 10 school years. States like Oklahoma and Colorado experienced a 17% and 16% decrease. These states also saw massive teacher walkouts in 2018. There are of course some states where teachers' salaries did increase, and some teachers received the growth in benefits and may not be enough to balance out wages that are low overall. So with that, we can see that's where the stagnation is. Like when you don't have an increase in your funding, and then you're sending kids out and then giving parents school choice to choose other schools, and now you have to, the district they came from has to pay that money for that kid to go to that out of district school choice of theirs. They have to pay for transportation as well. You can see how they're probably not going to be much funding to give increases when there should be increases. Teachers work hard. I mean, teachers all across the country work hard to try to provide the best learning experience for kids all across the country. And it's not an easy job. And I mean, being myself a school counselor, being in the school system, public school system, I'm able to see this day in and day out, how tough it is, how things have changed. I mean, kids today, they cuss, they shout, they do all these things. And I mean, some of the stuff is like, you know, even the middle school level, you're like, they're modeling what they're seeing. That's what these kids are modeling what they're seeing. And when they're modeling what they're seeing and they're bringing that stuff to school, of course, that's what you get. You get a lot of defiant behaviors, rude behaviors, cussing, swearing, just being disrespectful to teachers in general and stuff like that. You see a big rise in that part. You know what I mean? And that all starts from home and what they're seeing at home, what they're experiencing at home. I mean, you are a product of your environment, as they say. So if you are a student where you're dealing with poverty at home already, and then you're seeing a lot of things happening at home that are kind of, you know, maybe not so good, and then you're coming to school, and then, you know, you're dealing with your teacher, and you know, maybe the student doesn't really even have much respect for their own parents and stuff like that, then you have a thing where it's a problem, because now they're going to bring that same attitude, that same discourse to school and act out against the teacher and stuff like that, who's also only there to provide them what their needs are, to help them through their learning experience. So, I mean, what about the kids that drop out? I mean, they were saying 17% is a big decrease. That's not a little decrease. When she's talking about states like Oklahoma and Colorado experience a 17% and 16% decrease. That's a lot. That's a big cut, you know. But like in Massachusetts here, the main thing is that you're seeing these days is actually where the public school systems are trying to retain employees in the best way they can by, you know, giving out incentive bonuses and things like that, offering incentives for new employees to come in. So, I mean, you got to find a way to balance that out, because in order to have and keep, staff and staff that's very good, and I mean, you think about Massachusetts, you have to be licensed by the state just to teach and everything like that. It's not like back in the day, but you have to be licensed by the state to do a lot of these things, and council and all that stuff, to be able to find qualified people to fill all the spots and the voids of the people that are leaving can be difficult. When you got a whole bunch of people just decide that they've had enough of the public school system and they're leaving, and they're up in arms about maybe their pay and other things like that, and how students are in the classroom in terms of their behaviors and things like that. That comes around. I mean, it comes around full circle, because at some point, those openings, those places are those staff are going to have to be replaced. And if you just drawn from, now you got a smaller pool of people to draw from, because people are just, a lot of folks aren't interested in trying to get into the fray in terms of public school because of the behaviors and the way things are and how students are so different today versus way back when I was growing up. So you see that being a problem. But I mean, if you're going to have decreased salaries, that's not going to encourage anybody to want to stay or encourage anybody to want to join if they already know how things are. So that's something that needs to be addressed across the country. We as an educational system in this country needs to recognize how important funding is, and how important it is to make sure that our teachers and staff are also funded well and compensated well for what they do, because it's not an easy job. It's definitely not an easy job, So the next part is just what I was emphasizing myself in terms of the testing. I know I just talked about it, but that was her number 7 point. She was going to talk about how there's an emphasis on standardized testing. She put that right in the article too. She mentions here in the article, along with Common Core, there has been increased focus on standardized testing, especially during the No Child Left Behind years. Schools and teachers are judged based on student test scores, which many argue is not fair or accurate measure of efficiency. Many critics argue that standardized testing is one of the biggest problems in American education succession, suggesting that the pressure to produce high test scores lead to the teach to the test approach, and reduce focus on non-testing subjects like art. And that's what I had just actually mentioned. Like all the creative arts, they cut the funding for that, so then they can go forward and continue to do this thing in terms of what they call teacher to test approach. And I totally see that. I totally see that happening. Everything is geared toward preparing the kids to take the test. I know I mentioned that, but that's one of the emphasis. Like I said, in Massachusetts, that's what we have. We have what's called the MCAS test for our students. If they don't pass that test, then they get no diploma. Even if they got straight A's during the whole year and it met their core requirements in terms of their grades, they need to still have to pass the test in order to get their diploma. So, I mean, I never agree with that. I'll continue never to agree with that. And I think that's something that needs to change, not just in our state, but across the country. I mean, tests should not be indicative of what that student's knows or their knowledge and understanding of things, especially if they've done good with their grades, and hold them back from getting a diploma. I think that's just appalling in that sense. And I'll never agree with state state testing like that in any capacity. So also there was mention in here about the arguments about teacher tenure. Tenure is designed to protect, this mentioned in the article here, that tenure is designed to protect teachers from being fired for personal or political reasons. The student district must demonstrate just cause. In many states, tenure is granted to public school teachers who have consistently received satisfactory evaluations, though some states don't award it at all. Supporters suggest that tenured teachers can advocate for students without having fear of reprisal, while critics say it makes it harder for school districts to discipline the ineffective teachers. Some also suggest that tenure may encourage complacency, allowing teachers to put forth the minimal effort. Now, with this, I will say, you're going to get the good with the bad, the mix with the, you're going to have your teachers who are able to make connection with kids and connect with kids and make connection with kids and be able to have those kids understand. They have that understanding or that natural gift to be able to connect with kids in a way that helps them talk and speak on the level that they can understand, and also teach them in a way where they can understand too. I mean, but on the other end of the spectrum, there are a lot of teachers. I mean, when you're already having an exodus of teachers who are leaving, and then you're trying to fill the spots, and there's not enough qualified people because, a lot of those people, they need to be licensed or something in capacity too, and most of them are not. And, then you have this big influx of people, of teachers and stuff that are leaving districts all across the country. Then, I mean, what are you going to do? Are you going to, you're going to have to change something at some point, or else, as the exodus of a lot of these teachers and educators continue to happen, you're going to have a place where there's not enough people who are actually qualified for those positions. And then, of course, that is going to affect the classroom, because if you have underqualified people in the classroom teaching, that's going to impact those students in the classroom. And of course, if everything's geared toward testing, test scores are going to drop, and then, where are you going to go? I mean, you gotta pick a point. You gotta pick your battles of what you're gonna decide to try to do here in terms of, meeting student needs, or focus so much on standardized testing and things of that nature. So I think that is something that is very important in terms. I know for a lot of teachers, they've been teaching for years and years. Some have been there. They're trying to reach their tenure to get compensated for their retirement packages and stuff like that, and make sure their retirement packages are where they want them to be. And in a lot of terms, those retirement packages are still not going to be feasible enough to sustain things for a long time. So you have to actually pick another plan, maybe get into a 401(b) plan or something like that, and contribute to that to, try to compensate for whatever will be when it comes time to retirement for a lot of the teachers and educational staff across the country. And that's another part too. Even in the sense of decreased salaries, you got to think about also a retirement. The retirement for a lot of these teachers and a lot of these staff, that they're going to have to retire at some point. And if even that part is not where it needs to be, then there's going to be a problem, right? So another big one, and this is the biggest one right here that I've seen has been more happening more and more when they talk about the idea of bullying in schools. And, now you have the idea also of there being cyberbullying as a part of that too. So now you change the whole dynamic, because it's not just about bullying, but now you put cyberbullying into the fact where there's a lot of online bullying going on and stuff. And a lot of it probably isn't really reported by kids, because maybe they're ashamed, they don't want to be considered snitch and telling on their fellow peers about things that are happening. So they just don't say anything. That's another whole aspect to be looked at. But in terms of bullying in schools, she mentions in the article here that violence in schools is a rising issue, and bullying is a key contributor. According to the National Center for Educational Statistics, over 20% of students grades 6 through 12 have been bullied either in school or on their way to or from school. This figure is actually down from 32% in 2007, but still much too high. Right? The challenge with these statistics is that many students who are bullied do not report it. And I was just mentioning that. Even with the cyberbullying that happens with a lot of students, they're not reporting it. They're having these things happen online. Teachers don't know anything about some of the stuff that's going on online. And parents who are not checking, of course, they don't know anything about what their kids are doing online. So you're having all this bullying going on cyberspace. And a lot of that stuff is spilling over into schools, because now, they might have had something happen online out of school and didn't report it. And then they come into school and they're seeing each other, and then they're having issues in school, but nobody, the teachers and the staff don't understand why, because, weren't ever reported to that bullying was happening online or something like that, or bullying was happening with this particular student or peer or anything like that. And I think that's one of the most biggest things you see is underreporting of issues such as bullying. And when you don't report it, you can't solve the problem. I always tell my students all the time, if the staff doesn't know what's happening, then how can we solve the problem if we don't even know what's transpiring? Like, if we don't even know what's happening? Like, how can you solve a problem when you don't know what's happening in the classroom, or if it's something to do with cyberbullying? If it's not reported, then how do we know? Like, there's no way to solve a problem if we don't know the issue. And then a lot of parents would be upset and saying these things, but I mean, it's not being reported, right? Parents are calling the school saying, hey, my son is being bullied. Well, that kid didn't report anything. That kid didn't report to anybody that they trust or feel comfortable with in the school that this was going on. Most of the time, that stuff been going on for a while. How long has it been going on, little Joey? Oh, for 3 weeks. So, I mean, you didn't report it, right? You didn't say anything. You didn't think about reaching out to say, hey, this is what's happening. This is what's making me uncomfortable. This is what's making me feel like I'm not in a good place in school and it's affecting my learning time. A lot of this is not being reported. So I totally agree. She says that bullied students experience a wide range of physical, behavioral, and emotional problems that can impact not only their education, but their lives. So I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that wholeheartedly. That a lot of the things in terms of when you talk about bullying and things of that nature, they are an issue. And a lot of it has been so unreported that it's just, it hasn't been good because it's so underreported. It's not reported at all. So that's another thing that is happening. And I know from my personal experience, I've seen a lot of that happening where students are not reporting incidents that are happening. And then the parent calls and said, hey, little Bobby or little Joey, he's being bullied. They're picking on him. And we're telling the parents, well, little Joey or little Bobby didn't report anything or tell us anything about this happening. And then parents are upset and mad. But I mean, there has to be accountability on both ends. Parents need to have a conversation with their kids to say, hey, if somebody's bullying or doing things that are not comfortable with you, then you need to report that to a teacher or a staff that you trust, a teacher, counselor, somebody, a principal, assistant principal, somebody in the school building that they trust so that the issue can be addressed with that peer or whatever is going on with that situation. A lot of times we don't see that happening. We just see the opposite, where the kids are not reporting anything and then they're going on about their business. And then all of a sudden you have angry parents calling and stuff like that and wondering why they weren't told about X, Y, and Z. And well, little Bobby didn't report anything. Little Bobby hasn't said nothing. Little Bobby said this was happened 3 weeks ago. I mean, what are we supposed to do with that? If something's being told 3 weeks later, what are we supposed to do with that as educators when we're not being told any information? We don't know the story of what's going on. And I mean, it's happened weeks ago. Details could be lost in some of the situations. Details could be lost, right? So, I mean, that's a problem too. And also, this is one of the big ones that I really want to make sure I cover. And it's so important because this affects a lot of inner city kids as well. The growing problems with student poverty. The growing problem with student poverty. That is such a big one right here. And I know growing up myself, dealing with poverty and things like that nature, things definitely were not well because sometimes you were thinking about eating or you're thinking about different things that are going on at home, things that maybe you've seen at home and maybe in the community. You're thinking about these things and you're bringing them into school. So I know a lot of these things are problematic because now you're bringing, kids are bringing these feelings and whatever is going on in the mix of the turmoil, whatever they might be dealing with, they're bringing those issues to school and they're expected to sit down and pay attention and act right, be right, when there's a lot of trauma and a lot of things going on behind the scenes that teachers are not taking into effect or not put into the idea of these kids are going through this. So maybe that's why little Bobby's acting like that, because maybe they're having trauma and stuff going on at home. So home environments, community environments are very important. So according to the data in the article, it says, according to the data from the National Center for Education and Statistics, more than 50% of the public school population in the United States was made up of low-income students, more than 50%. This is a significant increase from 38% in 2001. This is a nationwide problem with 40% of public school students qualifying for free or reduced price lunches in 40 states. In 18 of those states, students' poverty rates were over 50%. Studies have shown that low-income students tend to perform lower than affluent students, and family income shows a strong correlation with students' achievement measured by standardized tests. So you see, it completely blends in. And you see a lot of these things happening within the inner city where poverty has a major impact on the learning needs of the students in our schools across the country. I mean, and that's just something that's just prevalent. Like you have kids who are, like the poverty rates in 18 of the states were over 50%. So that's like kids across the country, a lot of kids across the country, they're receiving a reduced lunch or free lunch, right? Dealing with poverty at home and dealing with the community. Of course, with poverty in communities, especially inner city community, you have issues with gangs and gang violence and drugs and guns and stuff like that as an added equation to what they're dealing with in terms of home life and in community, their environment, home and community environment. And of course, that impacts student achievement. As they said, there was a strong correlation with student achievement measured by standardized tests. So now many of these students, they have to take the standardized test. They already have all this pressure of poverty and the things that they're dealing with outside of the school setting. And they're supposed to pass the tests and be able to do well when all these other things are going on. And I think that's something that's highly overlooked, especially in terms of, when you look at the bigger picture of education and what it's supposed to mean and what it's supposed to do for our kids and meeting the kids' needs and things like that. You see poverty plays a major part, a major role in that, a major part in a lot of things that are happening. I mean, when you're talking about more than 50% of public school population in the United States was made up of low-income students, I mean, and then you put in the lack of funding, you throw that in the mix. I mean, and then you throw it in the mix standardized testing, which is supposed to be something that helps, have students pass so they can get their diploma. That's a lot of pressure. That's extreme amount of pressure on inner city kids or low income students. Just don't have to be any low income students. Like, that's major pressure, right? When we talk about that across the country. So that's one of the things I feel is very important to remember and address that. And I'd always make that a point to, when I'm doing my counseling with kids, to remember that, little Bobby may be doing this, little Bobby may be doing that, but there are probably some that attached to the behavior. Usually, if there's something going on and behaviors are happening, it's usually attached to something. The kids worry about something's going on, something transpiring at home or in the community where they're at. So it's making them feel like, maybe that's their only way of coping, is by acting out. They act out to get attention or whatever the case may be, or they can avoid a task or whatever. Maybe they feel like they're bad at math and they want to avoid math, so they act out during math time so they can get kicked out of the classroom so they can avoid the task altogether. Those are all things that are prevalent, but also when you put in the mix poverty and all the things that are happening in the communities, in the inner city communities, and all the things that are happening in a lot of these students' homes. A lot of there's a lot of unstable homes and things of that nature that they're dealing with, and a lot of poverty. So you're going to make a mix for having things be a certain kind of way. And if you have an underfunding, then you're not going to be able to address all that. So I think one of the other points that is important to also overlook, or not overlook, I should say, is the idea of how schools are overcrowded, right? So that's one of the points that she also brought up in this article too, is about how schools are overcrowded, which is very true. So when we look at what she says in this article, she said in 2011-2012 school year, the average class size in American public schools was about 21 students in elementary schools and almost 27 students in secondary schools. Reports, however, suggest that classrooms today have closer to 30 and in some cases 40 students. Teachers and other components of smaller class sizes suggest that class size influences the quality of education, with smaller class sizes have quality of education with smaller class sizes have improved student outcomes. Critics say that the cost of limiting class sizes is limited to factors that may not be even worth it. In Florida, class sizes were capped in 2002, but in a 2010 study showed no significant impact on test scores for students in grades 4 through 8. So now, that's what's going to happen when you have 40 kids in a school. and they are all, wanting help they're sitting in the classroom. There's only one teacher, and now they're wanting help with this, maybe something that they can't understand or we need some further explanation from. Now that becomes more difficult because the class is much larger. You know what I mean? So like they were saying here, that they small, class sizes suggest that the quality of instruction would decrease. And of course, that's what you see. Like the more students you have, there's going to be a decrease in the quality of instruction. And when you have a decrease in the quality of instruction, that's what ends up happening. You just have things going on, and now you're like, okay, well, the quality of instruction has decreased. Does any family want their kids' quality of instruction to be decreased? I mean, when you send your kids to school, you're banking on them having experience where they're going to be increasing not only their learning experience, but increasing their knowledge and understanding of things that are happening, not just in the school setting, but maybe having to connect to real world life experiences. So, I mean, you have to be able to do something about class sizes too. And a lot of this school choice stuff has impacted that too. When you have maybe one school in particular in town, maybe that everybody feel, oh, I want my kids to go there. So now they're out choicing and sending all their kids over there. So, I mean, their classes they send them to might have 40 kids in the class, which, impacts the instructional learning part. When you have that many students in the class and you only have one teacher versus thinking about if you only had 20 kids in the class, okay, that, it's said here that it did say that the less limited or the smaller class sizes did not show an impact on test scores for students grade 4 through 8, right? But of course, if you're able to get better one-to-one instruction or more one-to-one instruction versus a 20 classroom, 20 kids in the classroom versus 40 kids in the classroom, you can of course get better instruction in the 20 classroom kid, the students, who have the 20 kids in the classroom, because now that teacher is going to be able to go forth and give them more individual attention. Versus if they have 30, 40 kids in the class, they're not going to be able to just give individual attention to a lot of these kids or the students, every kid's in the class, and a lot of them are probably going to have needs and need help about things. So, I mean, that's another thing that is a prevalent thing. I know that's some of the things that we talk about, and those are some of the things that we try to embellish in terms of understanding how do we improve the U.S. educational system. And I thought this was a very good article. And actually, one of the parts that it talks about too is where she mentions parents are not being involved enough. And I think this is another part that sometimes can be, I've seen that too, where parents, you get the phone calls and you can't get a response or reply or anything, but as soon as little Bobby has something going on with them, the parents are calling the school Spitfire, ready to do whatever and say whatever and talking whatever. But when we were trying to reach you before about things, there was no reply, no call or anything. So I've seen that personally myself. But in the article here, she mentions that teachers in public schools can only do so much to support their students. When students go home for the day, the state of their home life can impact their development both personally and academically. In cases where parents lack higher education, they may not be able to provide assistance with students' needs to learn and to complete homework. Students in low-income families face additional challenges at home, though even middle and upper-class families aren't off the hook. In many families, parents are too career-focused and have little time to spend supporting their child's education. And I think that's something that does happen. Like the rigors of life continue. They still, like a lot of students, families need to still be paying rent and paying their bills and staying on top of that. And that can be a struggle, like you talk about the low income communities and things of that nature. They're struggling just to stay above water and pay their bills and stuff like that. And then you have, that aspect of things. So when you have all these dynamics fitting together in terms of, overcrowding of schools and parents not being involved enough in terms because they're so focused on work and everything like that. Also focusing on how schools are so overcrowded and focusing on kids growing up in poverty. You have so many of these elements that are a part of everything that cause there to be upheaval in terms of the needs that children can have. So, I mean, these are all things that all of you should think about. Educators all across the country should be thinking about and keep in mind when we're talking about educational issues and how we can try to make the educational system better. These are all problems that are prevalent today. And this was a study article that was done in May of 2022. So, I mean, you're talking about recent things that are addressed and being talked about. So I'm hoping that people across the country, viewers and audience and listeners and all that stuff, and educators across the country, I mean, we need to really try to band together to try to alleviate a lot of these issues and problems that we see continue to be prevalent, especially when you add in school shootings and things of that nature. So, I mean, we need to really try to band together and find some ways to find, have these schools be accountable, have these districts be accountable, have these districts across the country be accountable for funding and increasing funding and funding, making sure that there's needs met and getting away from the idea that a test defines that student. So a test does not define student, but in this sense, a lot of times across the country, they're having a test define the student, these standardized tests. So I'm hoping people across the country will get on board with this.
Jim, I've been biting my tongue, brother, and I'm gonna tell you right now, Odin is here. But here's the bottom line: I've been listening. The article mentions a lot of things. And yes, some of those things are very important. But the problem that they have is you have curriculum developers. Now that's something they didn't talk about. That are creating these curriculums for students that don't understand the students. They're not in the classroom. They've never been in the classroom.
Yeah.
You got councils. For educational council for schools by your state or county or local that those members neither are or have been parents or students of or teachers of the modern student. You know, the issue I say with this classroom, with the schools and the cell phone, that's a huge issue. When I say huge, I mean it's incredible because you're right. They do cheat. Kids cheat. And if you think your child don't cheat, you don't know your child. Look at you. The apple don't fall far from the tree. But the bottom line, Jim, is that I don't believe schools should have ready access to cell phones. Yes, that technology is there. Yes, that technology can be used. Can, C-A-N, be used for good. But the problem is, most of these students that we have today's world don't use anything for the good. I mean, they'd rather play a game, they'd rather go and talk to their friends and Snapchat and TikTok and all that crazy stuff. And they don't understand there's one key element they always miss. Being kids. Getting dirty. Having fun. Laughing jokes.
Yeah, they're forced to grow up so fast. They're forced to grow up so fast in today's modern world. They're forced to grow up so fast, and I mean, not even really enjoy their youth. Sometimes they're actually the caregivers for their siblings and stuff, and they're not even able to enjoy their youth. I mean, they're
the parents. Think about it, because there's some parents out there that are sitting at home, mentally, physically, psychologically, disabled. Yeah, you know who the parents are. You see them. They're the ones screaming and shouting, and I hate to use the word, but bitching at the teachers. Those parents, psychologically disabled. You have a lot of parents that really don't even understand education, even though they quote unquote went to school to 6th grade, 7th grade. You know, you got a lot of issues like that. You got parents that are coming in from other countries that don't even understand the educational system in America. And they don't understand education because in their country, they probably went to the 5th or 6th grade and had to work. So, I mean, we have a lot of a smorgasbord of issues out there. But then, and that's the inner city. That is your inner city. I mean, think about that. That is your inner city. But we have the issues that are predominant. We are being seen as an educational system that's stagnant right now. It's dying.
Yes.
Intellectually, the children are not of the quality of children 20 years ago.
Yep.
The majority. I'm not saying all, the majority. The problem we have is not just the educational system, but let's start at home. Parenting.
Yep.
And a lot of you parents out there are lost to the world of educating a child because you're from that generation that had children at the age of 14. And you had grandma there trying. She had to work. You got mama there, 14 years older than you. And, you know, she got to do something to make sure money comes in the house, or she's out there partying with her friends. Choose one.
Yep. They don't want to miss their youth. They feel like they don't want to get cheated out of their youth, so they want to party and stuff and put the responsibility on the grandmothers who probably like 33 years old, you know.
And then
like
you got great-grandma. Hold on. Great-grandma could be another 14 years older than grandma.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to remember that era from the 70s and 80s till the 90s produced children upon children upon children. Well, then you got the government lying to you, telling you the educational system is, hey, we're doing well. We're going to make no child left behind to we're going to infuse the system with some other BS that's supposed to help the kids to be more educated. We're still under the most impoverished nations in the world in education.
Yeah.
Because the system that we have at present is not being funded. I mean, what can you do for these kids? Let's talk about what can actually we do. How about this? Let's start with computers. I say take them out the classroom because you got a cell phone. That'll mess their heads up. Give them books, not tablets. How about this one? Parents,
that right there is a big one. Give them books instead of tablets.
Hold on. How about this? How about that loose leaf paper? You remember? We used to buy a pack of 200.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Give them some of that
I
stuff.
remember that.
Yeah, that shit that y'all didn't like doing when we were young. You know, I'm 52 coming up real soon. Let me give you some numbers. All right. Use leaf paper. Let them write in a legible language of American English. See, I would say English.
Yep.
No, it's not. It's American English. Let them learn the way we had to learn. We had to learn facts. Now, you can tell me anything.
That's what it was. I mean, I just had experience where I got a chance to kind of collaborate on a thing with, collaborate on a show with a gentleman from South Africa. And the way that he asked questions about America, not just the educational system, but also about, you know, the ideas about police brutality and things of that nature. We had a real in-depth conversation about that. And it's interesting to have someone from another country, their perspective of how America is. It's so interesting. Like that same gentleman was like, I would never want to take a vacation in America. Because I'd be feeling like the dude said that. He said, I would never want to take a vacation in America because I would be afraid of being pulled over and think I'd get shot because I'm black. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and even with the education part of it, like, it was just different to get a outside the box perspective like that from a person from another country and how they view the U.S. And of course, you know, when you're in a place, you feel like, okay, the U.S. is the best. U.S. is the greatest. U.S. is the best of all time. You know what I mean? And then you get an outside perspective like that. It gives you, you know, makes you really think about things in the bigger scope, you know, and just not just, okay, we're in a box here in America, but other people are looking and watching. Other people from other countries have a viewpoint too of how we're doing things here in America. And that is so prevalent, man. I mean, I was just like, wow. I've never heard anybody say, I would not take a vacation in America. I've never heard that said to anybody. I've never heard anybody say
vacation there. Hell no. How about this one? This is my statement for all the Americans out there. You know, upon leaving Washington, D.C., I took a note of something that was interesting. I saw an Indian family from a small town in India They came to visit the city, Washington, D.C. Now, you got to recall and think about this, people, because you're going to say, all right, here's the statement. There were 8 of them. Okay? First number, 8. They worked menial jobs. Okay? Their dollar is not worth the American dollar. By far. But they got a whole family out there, dressed up nicely, looking clean, and they are seeing Washington, D.C., spending a week in a hotel. Y'all try that. Please try it. Try to spend a week in Washington, D.C. in a hotel. I guarantee you're going to spend about, you got a family of 8, you're going to spend a couple grand.
Oh, yeah. Easy.
But hold on. They're from India. Think.
Coming over here to make it happen. Try to make it happen.
Currency is not worth shit to ours. Think about that. Then think about this fact. You Americans don't see nothing of the world. I'm going to be biased now. You Americans are ignorant to the world. You Americans think you're the shit. But this poor man in India with his wife, children, and family are coming to visit your country. Hold on.
Yep.
You don't even leave the country. I want to take a cruise. I want to do this. I want to do that. But you've never been to another place in the world to see how their culture is, to see how they practice their education, to see how they treat their children and why their children is not blowing off steam and going crazy like MK Ultra hit them in America, shooting up schools, killing people in parade grounds. Understand. Let's try this again. They from India. Their money's worse is about as bad as the peso. But they can fly here. You're making all that damn money, and you can't even fly to London.
It's crazy, man. That's crazy.
Think a little bit. I mean, just a little.
It's
what the hell am I doing wrong?
It's crazy, man. I mean, like I said, I never thought about, I never actually thought about how other countries could view us, but having that opportunity to have, have somebody actually give their insight of what they thought America, their perspective of America, and especially in the motherland, South Africa. I mean, the motherland, like, America, I wouldn't take a vacation there.
Look. I got to pay for gas like you do, and I got to, what? Look, your kids are like, what? You can't control your own children? As a teacher, you can't control the children? As a teacher, you don't control your classroom. As a teacher, you don't control what those children are able to or cannot do. Why did y'all take prayer out of school? Why did y'all take the Pledge of Allegiance out of school? Why did you take the spankings away?
Oh, and you know what? And that's interesting because in Texas right now, they were trying to change the word slavery and have it noted as being called involuntary relocation. They were trying to change it in the school systems down there in Texas to change the word, take slavery out. We're going to call it involuntary relocation. I mean, it's
can we all just say we lost our damn minds in this country? Y'all want to use words and lingo to make your cases known. I'm going to make a case known to you. If you want to learn science and you were back in the, say, 2nd century BC, as we would say here, where would you go to learn science? Well, hold on. How about surgery? Basic surgery. Where would you go? Oh, I would go all right, let me tell you, ignorant people. The Greeks, the Romans went to Africa to learn. And then they came back to their country and gave it a whole new name. In other words, they stole it. They reinstituted and stole it. Just like they stole Zeus, Emotet from Emotet. They stole it. They renamed they renamed their gods. Their gods are actually African. Let's go there for you. So They now renaming stuff. Makes you wonder how much of our life has been stolen and renamed.
Yeah.
I mean,
and continues to have that happen too. It's not just that's an example right there of what they're trying to do in Texas. That's example how they try to flip it and rename it something else.
Rename it.
I mean, how many we've gone from being Negro, we've been called Negro. We went from Negro to Black to African American.
I'm waiting. African American.
What's going to be the next? What's going to be the next thing that's going to be?
Become an African American? Africa's a continent.
You can't be two countries at once.
I mean,
you can't be two countries at once. Like you can't be two countries at once.
I mean, I don't understand how people accepted this. It was an acceptance. It was an allowance. It was something that y'all brainwashed. You brainwashed. Y'all brainwashed out there. I'm sorry. Listen, if you want good indoctrination, like y'all people love indoctrination, how about this? Learn for yourself. Teach what you learn to your children. And show your children how to have a good life.
Mm-hmm.
Like that man in India. Like that man in India who took his family and flew them halfway around the world, because the whole way around the world means he returned back to India, to see Washington, D.C., so they will understand what the city is like. See, you got to lay ground front before you send your children into a battle.
Yep.
You got to do your investigation. I know you people don't want to accept that, but you do. I mean, when you move from one city to another or another state to another, did you do your research?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're not going to
gotta read, gotta do research. Gotta read, gotta do research. I mean, that's the most prevalent thing. You're going to get information, and of course, I always tell, like I teach my daughter all the time, you won't get you'll get nuggets of information from here, but if you read books and information and stuff from other countries, then you get a real clear picture of what the real picture is, like what the real is, what they do, like versus just the watered down version of whatever
we
the country
get watered down here, because something. Most of the people that are writing books in this country about other countries probably went there for a week. I stayed in Mexico. I stayed in Venezuela. I stayed in Colombia. Oh, you were there a week? No, I wasn't there a week. Sorry, I said something. No, I was there months. I lived with families. I went to Russia. I didn't stay in Russia. I lived Russian. That's a difference. Now, most of those people go there and they don't even speak the language. They didn't want to learn the language, didn't want to figure out how the culture was, and didn't want to eat the food.
Yeah.
I ate monkey brains when I went to Bangor. I ate the cultural foods of that land. See, you got to eat, you got to sleep, you got to breathe it. And you come to America and you say, we're the land of free and the home of the brave, and you look like a bunch of damn slaves because someone else is ruling you, your family, your educational system, your thought process. Look at what you took. Look at the country today. Look at your thought process. The president said, off the education topic for 30 seconds. The president said he's blaming the gas stations for the rise in the gas price. Hold on. Stop. Everybody just stop. Listen. I know you MFs out there voted for him. You going to deny it. But come on. Come on. There's a point where you say, what?
Like, what is going on? I mean, our gas prices out here have increased in Massachusetts a lot. And it's continued to climb. And I mean,
he blamed the gas station. The gas station. The ones that have the pumps. He's blaming them. He sent thousands of reserve of oil overseas,
Yeah.
which is big barrels. These barrels are not small, just so that
Yeah.
people know.
They're huge.
They're huge. They're like
Yeah.
tanker size, double tanker.
Yeah.
Overseas. And he said, I don't understand why the gas is so high. I blame the gas stations that are jacking up the prices. I'm sitting there like, do you see the price of gas? Anybody? You read stock market? Anybody have any education? Anybody have any wisdom? Anybody has an ounce of knowledge? Now,
That's so.
this is the problem. This is our educational system. And it started back, I hate to do it. I don't want to say it. Obama. It started even a little further back. No Child Left Behind. Bush.
Yep. Yep.
But it really capitalized itself and showed itself during Obama because look at these 18 to 20-year-old kids shooting up schools. Listen,
Yeah.
look at the ages of these mass shooters. 18 to 21.
Yeah.
18 to 21.
Yeah.
Obama era. What's wrong
Yeah.
with you people?
I mean, that's what you see, 1821. And that's why they'll say, wanted to always take action and say, hey, we're going to raise the age of, the kids who can get access to these weapons. We'll raise it to 21. That'll solve the problem. We'll raise the age to 21. Oh, yeah, that'll take care of everything.
But
There'll be
Daddy
no
has
more
it at home.
issues with school shootings after that. Oh,
But
yeah.
hold on. The question you should really ask is, how are they getting these guns? Look,
Yeah.
he couldn't drive. So, how'd he get a gun? Mommy and Daddy took him to the place to get his first gun. Ain't that like getting a new bicycle? Ain't that sweet?
Mm-hmm.
Ain't that
Yep.
sweet? I mean, the ideal is you earn your weapon.
Yeah.
You earn your stance in life. You earn your love for this country. You earn your respect from the people around you. And you earn your dignity.
Yep.
Now, I just don't understand this society personally. I met somebody today while you were talking on the phone. The lady was a kindergarten teacher talking about the kids in the classrooms calling themselves cats and not doing nothing. And you call the parents up, and the parent says, "It's your fault. I'm the teacher. You try to take all this power away from me. Now you're going to throw the power on me and say it's my fault. But when I chastise your child, you're going to say I'm wrong. And I'm picking on your child."
Yep. Yeah,
I mean, which street do you want me to stand on? Because you're really screwing me. You're giving me mixed messages. You know people what I mean by mixed messages. Yeah, I love you until you say something that pisses me off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Telling
who's
you,
waking up in
flip-flop.
Who's waking up in a real country? It looks like the people in Africa are. It looks like the people in South America are. The ones that didn't run here to America. And then we got the border crisis, which is going to dump change that word. Millions upon millions of children are going to invade our school system, and we're going to have English as a second language forever and ever. Wake up. Now,
Yeah, there's got to be some people who got to wake up.
man, and listen, English is a second language, the ESL teachers, I feel sorry for you. I feel sorry for you because you're getting ready to get the dump. You got uneducated parents and uneducated children that can't write a letter in the alphabet. Yes, they use the same alphabet as we do. A single letter or understand a single number.
And that's what I mean. Like, it's just like, it's so crazy, man. Everything has just been taking a turn to go backwards rather than forward. And it's supposed to be about forward progress when you talk about education and all these kids. And then you see all this stuff happening. And it's actually going backwards.
More backwards than ever. And they said,
yeah,
the trend will change.
Mm.
We're teaching the ignorant.
Yeah.
How's that going to affect America? Hold on. When y'all going to start burning books? Banning them.
Mm-hmm.
Let's have a good old book burning. How about this? Let's take away the Constitution. Because I know that's next. The problem we have in this country is everybody wants a little bit of something, and in the end, you complain that you got what you want, and it's not what you really want.
Yeah. Yep.
So how about these people starting to think a little bit? I mean, honestly speaking, I'll say it out loud. Trump's an asshole. Deal with me. Okay, how about this? Biden's a retard. Who would you choose between them both? That's not a toss-up. I'd rather deal with the asshole. I mean, let's tell the truth. He had an educational reform that really was kicking out a lot of the BS that was done from the Bush administration to Obama. Yeah, I call him Obama. And if he was on air with me right now, I'd call him Bama. Because he won't shit in Chicago. And now he's a damn near billionaire. You people stupid. You know something? You help investors make more money in those corporations. Listen to this. Let's go straight for the truth. You bought masks that were made in 1976. You bought hand sanitizer that was probably created back in the early 80s. Because of fear. Stand up on your own 2 feet and get some damn knowledge and research. The information was out there. It was out there the day it started. Now, you looking at your educational system. Oh, it's in turmoil. They got these guys in dresses teaching my children. I don't care. They got these people in there. I don't care. LGBTQ is doing it. I don't care. You know why? Because, number one, you wanted it. You allowed it. You complaining about something you allowed. Hey, listen to me. Here's my statement in life. I wish you kept all the Confederate stuff up, but you decided you want to rip it down. Why didn't you want the Confederate stuff up? What was there hidden? I mean, let's just be honest. I'm a man of color, and I'm going to tell you right now. I got color. I'm not black. I got a tan. The man with the permanent tan, as they used to say. The bottom line is this. That's our history. That's our heritage. If you don't like your heritage, you don't like your history, and you're so disgruntled because your mommy, your daddy, your great-grandpa, whoever the hell it was a slave, then you need to grow the hell up. Because guess what? Those days are past. Those days are gone. You got to survive and live today. Not like that man in India who's been through worse hell than you've ever been through in your entire life, and probably worse than your damn great-grandmas who were slaves. And who can now take his family on a trip. Oh, he's still poor, though, but he can take his family on a trip to the United States of America to see Washington, D.C., to let them see. Hold on. Did you hear me use the word let them see?
Yep. Check it out.
And guess what they're going to find out? We got loopholes. They think, too. See, they don't just see. They think. Where are you people at? Shoot, you can't even get out the hood. You can't get out the trailer park. You can't get out your house because you're scared. And educational system, the educational system would have done you better if you didn't have one thing, fear. And that's why you let them people control your child, your child's education, and your home life. You gave CPS the power of God with a child's ability in your house. Good God, you some dumbasses. I'm sorry, I had to say it, bro. You know I haven't cursed in a long time. You saw I skipped it, and
You've been doing a lot better with it, though, man. You've been doing a lot better with it.
I'm holding down, brother. I'm holding it down because the truth is going to set y'all free. The truth is going to set you free out there. You know why it's going to set you free? It should piss you the hell off. The truth. Listening to that article that he gave you should have made you upset.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to give a kid a gun? You're going to try to manipulate a system? You're trying to manipulate parents? All the basics in the end is it points to you parents. Every bit of it points to the parent. If he goes through the article a second time, listen, go back and listen to him. Honestly, go back to listen to Jim. Re-listen to this show. I don't care where you are. It's on YouTube. It's on LinkedIn. It's on Twitter. It's everywhere. Go back and listen to this damn show. What he read to you was from a woman that was pointing at you parents.
Yeah.
Not the
She used
system. You parents. In the end, it all is up and down the path. It is all you. You're carrying them bricks on your back called a child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what they see, they're going to be replicating that. So what they see at home and how they see things interact, they're going to replicate that and bring that right into school.
How them children going to be ready to go to space? Listen, y'all children maybe in a few years ready to go and, probably work for somebody. They ain't going to have the ability to do it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Educationally wise, they don't have the idea of how to perform many of the duties it takes to be in life because you don't have consistency. You don't have mental testosterone. These kids are gone. So now, how you gonna make your kids better? Snatch that damn phone out your child's hand, put it away.
Yeah.
Take that phone away from them like it was on fire. And put it
Take
in a
that
box.
iPad away.
And
Disconnect that.
If you're paying $1,300, $1,600 for an iPhone 13,
that's a lot of money too.
who the hell pays that kind of money to a 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6-year-old?
That's a lot of money.
That's a down payment on a car.
Yeah.
That's an electric bill. That's a gas
For a
bill.
cell phone.
Hold on, your child has that much power over you? Let me ask you a question, seriously. Are you the punk bitch? Punk bitch to your child now, aren't you? You have no control of your own house. I bet your child tells you when to go to bed. I bet your child tells you, yo, mom, dad, go in that kitchen and fix me some food. And bring me a beer, too.
He'd be like, mommy, daddy, go to bed right now.
Yo, here's a better one. 7-year-old going to her mom and dad. Yo, mommy, shut up. Oh, yeah, that's on TikTok now. You know that? The new shut up challenge? Telling mommy to shut up.
I've seen students actually behave that way toward their parents. Be like, maybe in a meeting, they're having a discipline meeting for the kid, and the kid is there with the parent, and the parent's trying to talk, and the kid be like, shut up. Shut the F up.
Okay, hold on. You want to hear what my statement is? Did you see that child's face and jaw slam onto that floor? Because I'll be damn, my child would do that to me.
Mm-mm.
That's a warrior's call.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry. I'm straight up. You're going to have your jaw rewired. You'll be better. It'll be stronger. You know what I mean? Once it gets healed. You're going to learn to respect me. Because I'm sorry. Like in the animal kingdom, only the big dog eats first. And I guess your child is the big dog. You're just a punk. You weak. You parents out there weak. You were taught to turn the other cheek. It'll be better. I'll pray for them. And the educational system said, we're just going to let them have more toys. And now mommy and daddy's a toy. Yeah, you're a toy. Think about it, you're a toy. You're something to play with. See, I'm getting somebody in trouble. I feel it. Look, I'm like the good reverend. I see it right now. Indiana. I see this household. Oh, thank you. Hold on.
Oh man, I'm telling you, man.
Oh shoot! I feel a child's jaw slam into a wall because he told mommy to shut the F up. Hold on.
Such-
I feel it. Oh, I hear the word. Hawaii. I see it. Some kid got thrown up a coconut tree because he told daddy, screw you, dad. Fuck it. You go up and get the damn coconut, you son of a bitch. Age 8.
They be talking wild and reckless like that.
Listen,
I mean, the kids
today,
today are different, man.
You know what? Something I saw a kid talk to this other this parent that was talking to his mother, and the kid said, "Don't you leave me a fuck alone." He had to be about 4 years old.
Yeah.
4 years old. 4 years old. You know, as a parent, I would have gone discotheque on his candy ass. I'm getting better. It's coming back. Damn, I just kind of ripped my damn mic free. But yeah, I'm gonna go discotheque. I mean, there are certain things at certain levels that you can just take. But you parents are taking disrespect from not just the school. I mean, listen, in Maryland they call the school a CEO, the CEO of the school. Do you hear that statement? CEO, it's a corporation, it's a business. It's not an educational system no more.
They're making it this business, a big business too. Not little business, a big business.
It's always been big business, but now they're obvious. They're coming out with the truth about it. It is this big business, yo. We gotta get these books from Macmillan. No, you don't. Why don't you go to the library and get certain books for certain kids and do group readings together? How about that? No. We gotta spend some money. We gotta spend money. Spend money and make money. Because if we don't spend it, we don't get money next year. Big business. We don't have good grades. Like the teachers, you know this one for a fact and as well as I. The teachers, if you don't pass a certain amount of students correctly in their class with A's and B's, you know the deal. Come on now, tell the truth.
Yep.
If you don't pass them, you don't get funding. Or you could be fired by the principal. The principal.
They'll let you right out of there.
They'll
get you out of there quick.
The truth in education is found in what it has accomplished. I know you're an accomplished. You have a brain. I know you make it work. You try to help the students. You've written books. You getting ready to have your movie soon. You getting ready to have the mega PhD. And you getting ready to have everything that you want. But do you find it hard to relate to the society when we in our society was based on knowledge, intellectual conversation, and the enjoyment of being able to share? These teachers today don't want to come out and talk because they dumb as a bag of rocks. All they know is what the system gives them, called curriculum, the core curriculum.
Yep, Common Core.
They are dumb as a bag of rocks. You could do it your damn self, you parents at home. That's the truth. It's the same scorebook that the teachers are doing. Don't think they're special. Do it at home. Bring those kids home. Raise them kids correctly. Make them do that homework. Make them sit there and learn their mathematics. Maybe you'll start seeing who your child really is and what your child's really made of.
Yep.
Because most of these kids out there are made of just goo, in my opinion. Goo. Nothing but goo. They soft. See, this country wants you to have a soft child. Let me use the correct word. Softness. That's discriminatory. Okay, let's try this. Your child's got yellow down his back and he's too damn scared to do anything. He's scared to venture out. He's scared to think outward. He's scared to try to achieve above the other one. He's scared to acquire the knowledge and intellectual existence that's beyond the others out there. No, he has to be a hood rat because, this is our place. Doesn't that sound familiar? Our place? You're a slave.
I don't know, all that stuff to be dictated in the minds and foster in the minds and the hearts of all the kids across the country. And then all of a sudden, you wonder why there's so many problems and so many things and so many behaviors you see and so much autism going on and so much this and that.
Oh, you don't want to go. Listen, that's a whole. We got to start talking about autism and stuff like that. That's a whole show. Because, I'm going to tell you straight up. Did you not know what you were putting in your kids' food? Did you not realize that when you were carrying that little baby, what you were feeding it? Oh, hold on. Did you not know the drugs you were taking were affecting that child? Hold on. Let's try this. Did you not know that every step you make when you had that child in your belly, in your womb, females out there, affected that child in some form or some way?
Yep.
I mean,
all those actions.
I mean, didn't the doctor tell you this? I mean, I hate to take it to the point. Also, we're talking about Roe versus Wade and adding the educational system to it. Because, they brought out that pill, and we were talking about that today, I think. What were we talking about? I think, maybe so. My brain is burning out. They gave us the pill, and now they're going to give you the pill so you can get rid of the baby. It kills the baby. But then afterwards, guess what? They give you the second pill, but you're bleeding, and you're 14, 13 years old.
Yeah.
What does that do to you? Trauma.
Yeah,
but
that is.
We're not going to talk about that because I have spoken about the Roe versus Wade. If you have an abortion, if you are pregnant and you have a child and the system knows that you have a child in your gut wound, change the word from gut to wound, have a child in your belly, if you go to a state that allows abortions, you have an abortion, when you return to that state, you could come back a convicted criminal.
Yeah.
For murder.
I mean, that's the truth right there. And it's so crazy because then once you're a convicted criminal, now you're embedded in a system where even if you pay your debt to society, it's going to be hard for you to move forward because that's always going to be something that's going to hinder you or cause a problem with you or be a roadblock to whatever you're trying to do because it's now, you pay your debt, you get out, you're supposed to be able to get yourself a job and do all this stuff. And that's absolutely not the truth. That's not what happens. Actually, that stuff just follows you. It never leaves. You always have some kind of contempt of having those things be a part of your psyche and what you're trying to do and everything like that, which is totally not fair. Once your debt is paid, everything should be a clean slate, right. Everything like that. You just get out, should be able to get a job and everything like that. I mean, that's how it should be because you already paid your debt. But unfortunately, it's not like it in the country. And of course, who makes up most of the population of the jails and stuff that's in the country right now? Who makes up the most population? People of color. People of color make up the most majority of the population in our prisons and stuff today. So, I mean, there you have it. That's a way of disconnecting people from the main corporate society to be able to say, okay, well, now we can control the masses in a sense where, okay, we can unplug all these people, get them in jail, unplug them, all these people of color. When they get out, they ain't going to be able to contribute. We try to limit their right to vote and all this other stuff. That is all a way of control. And education does the same thing. The educational system tries to control everything in terms of aspects of a lot of that stuff too. I mean, it's crazy, man.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy. But hold on. Here's the thing. I wonder how many years you're going to get for having an abortion. Oops, I'm sorry. Let's leave that alone. Oh, wow. We got a big-ass storm out here. It is huge. The trees even just fell down.
Oh,
thank God,
that's
not
not
my
good.
area. Hey, look, we had fun tonight. Let's make it a short one. Next week, listen to this. I don't care if you got a guest or not. I'm going to join my brother here, and we're going to party and talk about all this stuff. I mean, I know you're going to come out with his educational stuff at first, but we're going to break it down to reality. So you people out there can actually see the stupidity that's in your head. You're starting to believe that aliens are everywhere. The paranormal exists only around you. No, it's out there. Paranormal's everywhere. Trust me, I know that. that the lives you live is the only life there is. No, there's more lives out there than yours, and you're not the only human
Yep.
being out there walking around.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me. And last but not least, you believe that you are from the United States of America, in God we trust, and we love everybody. You know something? Wrong administration. And we're gonna take care of the children. Definitely the wrong administration. You know,
Mm,
it hurts me, bro, to sit back.
yeah.
It hurts me to sit back and watch this. And I got a lot
Mm-hmm.
of battles ahead of me. You already know this. But you know what really affects me is the children. I try to show the people that the media outside of this media here, all of them, ABC, CBS, all of them people, are liars. They manipulate. They're frauds. It's to the point now where I don't even have to show them. But then now, with Congress doing their BS talking, I'm showing how much of a
Yep.
fraud Congress is. And I'm doing
Mm-hmm.
it. So, letting everybody know for the next, my show next Wednesday, I'm going to go and I'm going to crack Congress. I'm going to really have y'all some laughs and some fun talking about some of the stupid things that they do. I mean, you got Nancy Pelosi falling asleep at the Capitol.
Oh my gosh.
You got Joe
Falling full
Biden.
asleep, not half asleep. Like we're talking about
No,
snoring.
full sleep. We got Kamala Harris. They're poor. They poor. You got Joe Biden, as I already told you. He already predicted there's going to be another pandemic. And then he also said the gas stations he's mad at because they are raising the price of gas.
It's the gas stations.
It's the gas station, man. I think this is all a ploy to get us all to go electric, battery
Yeah.
cars.
Yeah. That's where it's going. You know, they're already doing all the stuff with building electric cars and all that other stuff. So, I mean, you're going to want to push that stuff that somebody's got to buy those cars, right? So eventually, at some point,
common dummy
you're going to have to push it.
You can't afford them.
Yeah.
The common man will never afford them. But he's going to try his best to get to where he needs to be for the sake of his family. No, for his wallet. We'll talk about this next week. Bro, let's get this off because this storm is, listen, I want you to see it. Hold on, let me get the screen clear. Hold on, let my brother see this because I don't think he understands. When I say this storm is dusting the land, hold on, let me get you. Let me go here, view all, self-view. Let's take this off because I'm tired of using my damn mode and I need to go to another one. You know me, I always change up every time I
Yep.
get a chance. You know, I've got to. Okay, there we go. Go to neutral. Yeah, there we go. That's what it looks like outside.
Oh my goodness.
Hold on, let me get close so you can see right. Whoa, I'm about to fall over. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got like Tropical Storm Charlie running through here. All right.
Oh my goodness.
And I was a wonder my internet hasn't shut down. But
Yeah.
I want to thank everybody for being in the show, coming to the show. Yes, my hair is fucked up.
Hey, and I want you guys to also remember, hey, I'm a chosen book author too, and my website is jimpricebooks.education, where you get my coloring books, my reading books, and all the things about me on there as well. And I think it's important because I also do virtual read and greet questionnaire Q&As. So if you had a school or whatever, or a library, and you want your kids to have like a Q&A session with me, author, whatever, virtual, you can go to my website and contact me through there to let me know, okay?
All right. I'll be there. Because I know he has intelligence. I would suggest that you go there too, parents. So that maybe you can understand what your children should be learning versus what that damn school is teaching them. I'm sorry, I have to be biased to education, biased to public schools, biased to even private schools at some points, because the private schools ain't doing much stealing money from you. But that's another topic we can talk about another day. Even though you get better quality meaning better contacts, not
Yep.
better education, but we can talk about it another day too. All right, Jim, send us off.
So all the viewers and audience and listeners and all that stuff, I'm blessings to you all, and I'm hoping that you guys take something out of this, especially educators and families across the country. I'm hoping you take something out of these understand these conversations and dialogue that we're sharing to try to teach you guys to have a more open mind when you talk about education, and especially when you think about how other countries view our educational system too, and putting that into effect. So stay blessed and continue to do things. Ventures Harold from the Hood, author, all that good stuff too. You know what I mean? Stay blessed out there. Stay blessed.
You gonna say good night?
And good night.